The Marlins sweep the Rockies and now face the Oakland A's. Could it be back-to-back sweeps for the Marlins? Could they get themselves back in the mix? I mean, we thought the same headed into the Nats series and we underperformed there. Nevertheless, maybe some excitement to look forward to after a fun couple of games against the Rockies. This is Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked On Marlins. This is your daily Marlins pod. I am your host, Peter Pratt. Hit me up at Miami Marlins _UK. If you're listening to the pod, of course, hit subscribe and leave a review. This is your team every day. And thanks for making Locked On Marlins, of course, your first listen of the day. Reminder, there's a YouTube channel. Hit subscribe over on the YouTube channel. It is also called Locked On Marlins. Easy to find, easy to subscribe, and easy to comment. Join me in the comments. Let me know what you're thinking about this Marlins team off the back of a series win. Yes, and it wasn't just a series win. It was a sweep against the Juggernauts, the Colorado Rockies, in what was potentially one of the sloppiest series of baseball I've ever seen in my life. Nevertheless, win's a win. Series sweep's a sweep. So we move. This episode is brought to you by our good friends over at eBay Motors, and from brakes to exhaust kits and beyond, eBay Motors has over 122 million parts to keep your ride or die alive. With all the parts you need at prices you want, it's easy to bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers. Happy Friday, guys. Firstly, welcome to Locked On Marlins. Delighted to welcome onto the pod, for those that are listening. Haven't seen that I've got a man in the pen here, ready to rock and roll, but delighted to welcome onto the show for the first ever time, Dave Hunt. Dave in the UK. Yes, we have another UK Marlins fan join the show. Dave, how are we doing, brother?
Oh, fantastic. Great to be here, Peter. Thanks for having me on. Really looking forward to it.
For sure. Me too. A little bit of context for everyone. And, you know, there's not many Marlins fans here in the UK. It's fair to say. There's not many baseball fans in general. It is super niche, or niche, if I'll translate it for all our American listeners. So, Dave, also a Marlins fan, and has also set up a brand new Marlins website and supporters group. So, we're rising up. This could be a big rising and a big following for the Marlins. So, looking forward to that. Well done, Dave, for getting it up and running. We'll share some details at the back end of this episode, no doubt. Dave, right. Talk to me about the Marlins. Talk to me about this Rockies series. It was a sweep. They managed to get the job done. They somehow managed to win all three. I'm not sure how they managed to do that. But nevertheless, it was a sweep, but it was a little bit sloppy. What were your main takeaways from this Rockies series?
I mean, I'm not sure about everyone else. I was hoping for the win from moment one in terms of the series. Did I expect a sweep? No. Did any of us expect a sweep? No. Did it start off exactly like we thought it would? Probably. Look, at the end of the day, a sweep's a sweep. We'll take it with how the year's gone so far. Like you say, it was messy at times. But at the back of it, we've seen some great performances from people who would we have thought we were going to get great performances from. You know, Dane Myers, Roddery. I love Roddery.
Yeah, me too. Looks a stud.
Fantastic. He really, really does. So, yeah, it was messy. But you know what? I'm going to take it. And I'm sure everyone in Marlins land out there will too.
Agreed.
Let's enjoy it.
Agree. That was exactly it. When I was, recording episodes after game one and game two, I didn't really care how the wins happened. I was just thankful that I had a spring in my step and was able to enjoy some victories finally.
And you could tell it was so great listening to Locked On Marlins over the last few days, because from where you were last week, there was rage in your voice.
There was a lot of rage.
The one episode you started off and you sounded genuinely furious, and then over the last few days you sounded so happy again. And I think that's representative of Marlins fans out there, isn't it? We just want to be happy. We want to enjoy our baseball, and it's not always been easy to enjoy it this year, so we say. But over the last 3 days, it's been scrappy, but we've won.
There you go.
Silly things like watching the lights going off and watching Kelly get soaked by Gatorade on TV. It's great to see.
This is what we're all in it for in Kelly Sago getting doused with the Gatorade bath. In game 2, I think she just about avoided that, but game 3 there was no hiding place. I think actually, to be totally, I think it was Luis Arias was the perpetrator in game 3. I think he just straight up aimed for Kelly Sago on that one. He just took her out.
It barely touched anyone else. Yeah, poor Kelly. So if you're listening, she's not. But if you are, Kelly, well, sympathy. You never know.
For sure. They are professionals, though. Those, the post-game guys where, they know what to expect. And even if they end up absolutely soaked, then they plow through and continue with the questions. What do you make, by the way, of Jesus Sanchez post-game comments? Obviously, that was what was going on at that point. Jesus Sanchez. Firstly, what I'd say is big hit from Jesus Sanchez, a walk-off against a lefty. Also, the fact that, so it's a walk-off, great. We then get the situation where he's doing a post-game presser in English, and then the cherry on the cake here is he then announces Miami is back, baby. So, Jesus Sanchez had a top quality few minutes there, I'd say, right?
He really did, and I think it was great for us to all hear him talking and hear the passion coming out. And that's been bubbling up in so many of them, you'd imagine, that want to get their game back on. And to see him and hear him go, Miami is back, it was great to hear. It made us, again, it goes back to the fact, look, we're both smiling, talking about it, because he was smiling, and it was brilliant to hear, and fair play to the guy. I think he won a lot of people over from that literally 10-minute period. So really happy for him.
Yeah, me too, because he's obviously had a little bit of a rough one where he was like yanked out of the game for lack of effort. Seemingly, I'm still not convinced that it was actual lack of effort, but mental awareness I think was his problem. But nevertheless, it's good to see him kind of turn the page on that, step up, deliver in a big moment. Get a walk off and happy days, and then declare that Miami's back, which is what I love to see.
Has being pulled from the game sort of contributed to that, though? Has it, toughened him? Did he come back in and think, well, I've got something to prove now, and he's gone ahead and done it?
Yeah, maybe. And this is the reaction, right? Like, if irrespective of whether Skip believed it was lack of effort, maybe it was just to signal to everyone, and maybe that Jesus Sanchez was the fall guy, but Jesus Sanchez is the one that it's directed to. He's pulled out of the game. Next thing is he steps up and delivers. There you go. Maybe Skip Schumacher, it works, right? Maybe this kind of tough love is working for the guys. So, yeah, really good point. One other major thing to call out from this series, we're obviously watching it was an ultra UK friendly game yesterday. I mean, 5:10 p.m. start. I mean, that must have been before midday for any of the Rockies fans in their local time. So that must have been super early for that game. It almost caught me off guard, to be honest with you, because the MLB app is completely screwed this year. Nevertheless, we're watching that. Eddie Cabrera comes out. Standard Eddie Cabrera blows everyone away in the first few innings. You're like, man, here we go. It's Sandy Alcantara 2.0. Next thing is Jacob Stallings walks in, 2 runners on, and he absolutely pulverized that ball. I mean, okay, it was a meatball, but boy, oh boy, Stallings destroyed it. Only his second home run in Lone Depot. I have to be honest, at that point, I thought this sums up the 2024 Marlins, to be honest with you. And but okay, they came back and they got the win in the end. But in some ways, it was kind of interesting and fun to see Stallings deliver a massive like a proper moon ball like that. It was pretty fun to see, I thought. What about you?
I agree. And you could tell in his own face, you could see while he was running, he was almost laughing to himself, like, really? And from a Marlins point of view, it's kind of, of course this was going to happen. From a neutral point of view, from a Rockies fans point of view, they were probably like, go on, lad. Really, really happy to see him, with that smile on his face. But I thought exactly what you thought. This is just typical. And you see it happen in sports a lot, I guess, and not just in baseball, across sports, where people go back to their own old haunts and all of a sudden they perform. And it was his first start as well. Am I correct in saying that? The first start of the year for him?
Probably was against the Marlins, I guess. But, I mean, he must have started other games, I guess, for the Rockies. But I'm not sure, actually. But all I could see is his numbers headed into the series. In terms of
they were poor, and then for him to do that, it's like some sick poetry.
It was. It was.
It's like I say, I see it a lot across sports. We all do. But at the end of the day, we still won.
There you go. And that's what it boils down to. Again, we'll always have that image as well of Eddie Cabrera with his arms in the full teapot position, just like, what the hell's just like, he looked completely mesmerized. He didn't know what had happened.
Watched Stallings run round. You saw him sort of, his head started turning. And then, like you say, the position, you could see him just thinking, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a bit of that where it was like, of course this happened. And he was just confused with it. To your point as well, he did definitely track him around the bases, let's say. And in a week where we've had a full on-field punch-up linked to a home run being, celebrated or pimped, however you want to phrase it, but a home run that was celebrated. Next thing is they're then throwing at the guy next time around. I was thinking, oh boy, could this happen again? Is Eddie Cabrera going to go for Stallings here? I mean, not that he would. I mean, he'd probably miss anyway, to be honest with you. But
well, there we go. No comment.
No comment. Absolutely. Good for Jacob Stallings because he was a big part of the Marlins organization. Clearly, I think with Stallings generally, because he was in finally a year of arbitration, you end up with the dollar amount became too much for the production. And so the Marlins were right to move on. But to your point, no surprise that he then goes to another organization, starts delivering, let's say. I mean, seems like this happens to the Marlins all the time where some dude can't get it going at all with the Marlins. They go to someone else and then they just come alive. I don't know what it is with the Marlins and particularly the offensive guys, but it is what it is. But well done to Jacob Stallings.
Well done to him, yeah. And I mean, we had a brief chat before the show and I said, I just think it was a case of wrong team, wrong time for him with the Marlins. Like you say, the year in arbitration didn't help. But it's good, fair play to the guy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the Marlins have won 3 on the spin, and they have a series now against the Oakland A's, who actually are overperforming, I would say, thus far. And their bullpen, particularly the back-end leverage guys, have been on fire. So we may well think, cupcake the A's. I don't think it will be. But nevertheless, bit of momentum for the Fish. We're going to talk about the Marlins and A's series shortly. But before we do that, time to let you know about our good friends over at eBay Motors. And we got the sexy graphics, of course. I love this ad read too. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, guys, back here with me, Peter Pratt, and a new UK GOAT, Dave Hunt, is in the house, and we are looking ahead at a 3-game series against the Oakland A's. The first game this evening, Friday's game, not UK friendly. This is the problem with these West Coast jaunts, but nevertheless, Dave, what are you looking for from this series from the Marlins, considering the backdrop of the season as a whole body of work, plus a sweep leading up to this? What's the kind of key bits for you for this one?
For me, it's how we come off the back of that sweep and react against a team that is in much better form than the Rockies, which I know isn't hard.
True.
You just said the A's are performing well above what people expected. I mean, they've had some crazy results, didn't they? I think did they win the series against the Orioles off the top of my head?
I think they've taken down the Rangers recently. They've had a few series wins in a row against playoff caliber teams. So you shouldn't underestimate the A's.
And they've had some fantastic results. So with that in mind, I just want to see us take that sort of joy that we've had. Okay, it's been sloppy, but there's been joy amongst the team. Let's take that into this series and see what we can come away with. I mean, there were people a few weeks ago talking about the fact we could sweep 2 teams back to back. I think it was all in jest because the chances are it's not going to happen. But look, if we could somehow pull a series win out of it, fantastic. Do I honestly expect a series win off this? I'll take a draw. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Praying for rain in one of them then.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, the A's they're on a 4-game winning streak at the moment as well, so they're even hotter than the Marlins in some ways. They're currently third in their division as well, above both the Astros and the Angels. So the A's are definitely overperforming. And the funny thing is, they're overperforming primarily driven by the back-end bullpen, which has been on fire, which sounds a very similar story to the Marlins last year. If you get your pen right, there's a really good chance that you can win games. It's been a problem for the Fish all year. But I have to be honest, Dave, it feels like the pen is starting to come together a bit. It feels like, Tanner Scott's rediscovering some of his form. You've got some other guys in the pen, some additions as well that are actually, some of Bendix's additions that are starting to perform as well. And so it feels like the pen as a group is starting to improve. And so I feel like this Marlins team is as good as its pen. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think we've seen different sides to the pen. One who's really frustrating me is Andrew Nardi. I
me
don't
too.
get the guy. He comes out and he throws an absolute nailer of an innings, and then all of a sudden falls apart. And we're seeing a great player, and then a very, I'm not going to say terrible because it's very unfair because he's not terrible.
No.
But we're seeing two sides to the guy. And for me, he's the ultimate example of where the Marlins pen is a pen of two halves. I mean, last night we saw it with Bender. I mean, where were those balls going? I mean, he struck the one guy and then the other one went to meet to the other side the next time. So, yeah, the pen is definitely improving. We just need consistency from those guys. And when the consistency starts coming in, like you say, you're only as good as your pen.
I think so. I think, and for me, that's probably the difference maker here for the Fish. We'll see. But the starting rotation as well has definitely improved. And I guess for this series, the announced starters anyway, I mean, whether they are the starters is up for debate. I think the first two, there should be no debate. Ryan Weathers going this evening in game 1. You've got Trevor Rogers in game 2. Sixto Sanchez slated to go in game 3 on the Sunday. Let me just kind of go to the back end of this. Sixto Sanchez down as the game 3 starter here. Do you expect them to make this start? I guess the Marlins have got a decision to make soon about their rotation with Braxton Garrett close. Rodri Munoz looking like an absolute stud. You've already called him out as well, that you love a bit of Rodri. So I'm interested to see whether Sixto makes that start on Sunday, although he has been announced as the starter. Where's your head on that one?
I actually think he will being the starter. As much as I think there are possibly better options out there, shall we say. I do see Sixto making the start. I think they want to give him that belief back, and I think they're still hoping there is a guy in there somewhere that can throw balls, and I think they'll end up giving him the start. It is a start that close back-to-back for Rodri, even an option.
Yeah, that's a good point. I probably not, and so I think it's like it's probably trying to weave guys back in. I'm very interested to see because Braxton comes up. He's on the same day rest as Rodri. Is that going to be the move? And again, it's going to kind of like a tip of the cap to the Marlins, like making moves that you don't quite understand, where they end up sending Rodri Munoz down. He ends up joining Max Meyer in AAA. We'll talk about Max in the final segment here, but guys that end up having career days, and then the next transaction is that they're optioned. And I think that's what's frustrating for Marlins fans because to your point, we've got this rolling here. 3 games on the spin. We're all happy. We're enjoying baseball again. The previous month has been just torture and we just want to be entertained.
It's what we want. And these guys are giving us the entertainment. You can't help but when you saw Rodri, absolutely going for it on the mound, you couldn't help but smile again and think, right, we've got something here. Definitely. What are we going to make of this guy? And what we don't want to see, like you say, is him being optioned again. I know there was a lot of anger over the Max Meyer situation from within the fan base, and including me at the time. Whether that turns out to be an inspired decision or not, we'll see. But would he have carried it on? I mean, he was our best starting pitcher at the point of which he was optioned. Would he still be now? Who knows?
Yeah, for sure. I get what's going on generally with Max, and I get the anger too. And I think but it was pretty obvious. I could see it coming a mile off, to be honest with you, at that time. What have you made of Trevor Rogers, though? Go on, Dave.
Sorry, I was going to say about Max. For me, what the sign it was, the day before it was announced, they interviewed him as part of the coverage, and he sounded sad during the interview process.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether it was because
he'd already known.
I know what's going to happen tomorrow.
It's a great call out, that, Dave, actually, because I remember that interview too. And I mean, he isn't like a super enthusiastic type of character, but still, I remember that interview and I thought, interesting.
He was downcast, wasn't he?
He was downcast,
I remember the day after. I wonder if that's why. But
great shout. Also being interviewed in a similar time, actually, on the broadcast, Trevor Rogers. What have you made of him? Because for me, he's been one of the standouts for the Marlins this year in terms of a guy that has bounced back, has delivered, looks relaxed, I would say, for Trevor Rogers. He looks like he's kind of matured into himself and grown up a bit, but on field looking good, off field sounding good. What have you made of him thus far?
You've stolen the words out of my mouth. I've got nothing to say. What Peter said.
What a stud. What a stud. That's all we need.
Yep, basically. No, you're right. He just looks and sounds like he's found his place. And that can only, if he carries on in that vein, I mean, I'd love to see that guy succeed. He's clearly one of the nice guys, and he could be a real leader. And the fact that he is relaxing more, if you look at him on the mound, he does look more like he's holding his place. Then yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Final segment, when we're going to hit the ads and final segment and come back, I want to talk about a guy that has overperformed versus expectations, in your opinion, a guy that's underperformed versus expectations. I also want to ask you about what 2024 success could look like. And we'll briefly touch on Max Meyer, who's just finished an outing at AAA. Unfortunately, hasn't gone amazingly well. So we'll briefly touch on that. Before we do that, time to let you know, of course, about our good friends over at Monopoly Go. Yes, sir. And all right, game off. We've got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You've already talked about them. There's so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome picks you unlock. And there's so much to get. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot pachinko machine. I love that word. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent. Frenzies! There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now. Free on Google Play or App Store. Game on! And this episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. It has more than 3 million members and is the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You pick more or less than on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in, baby. Spring training is definitely over and baseball season is officially underway. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entries, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Take your pick of more or less than and add them to your PrizePicks entry today. And don't forget the playoff action in the NBA. Win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. So download the app today. Use the code. That code is Locked On MLB. It's all lowercase for a first deposit match up to $100. Reminder, download the app, PrizePicks, use the code Locked On MLB. First deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Whew, those ad reads were not easy. That was a lot of words in very short space of time.
You enjoy them too much, Peter. You do.
I do. I give them my everything, no doubt about it. Welcome back to Locked On Marlins, Friday the 3rd of May. A lot of wins in Maine, so I'm enjoying it. You're back here with me, Peter Pratt, and Dave Hunt. Dave Hunt in the UK, which we love to see. Debut appearance. Dave, give it to me then. A guy that, we're just over 30 games in. Who stood out to you? Who's overperformed versus your expectations heading into this season?
It's funny because I'm gonna pick somebody that's so obviously topical to bring up, and that's I didn't expect to even see him, and it's Dane Myers. I know it's a strange pick with him not having, we haven't seen much of him, but to come in and have the level of impact from a situation he wasn't even expected to be coming into, I just think it's fantastic that we've got somebody that probably should have been there from moment one. But couldn't be there from moment one for situations outside of probably everyone's control. And I'm just happy to see someone like that in the Marlins, side playing well. I know it's only a few games in and everything could go south, but I don't see it happening. The guy is playing with a smile on his face. He's taken that chance. And for me, there have been other bright moments from other players on the field, but for me, it's Dane. So a left field choice. I know.
I mean, it's topical. It's current. Let's say. I think it's fit. Like everything you've said is bang on. Let me just ask you a quick follow up here on Dane specifically, where the Marlins approach in the outfield has been this strict platoon situation. Yesterday, I would say we saw one of the first times they deviated away from that, where Dane Myers ended up starting in place of Nick Gordon. Where normally it's been, if there's a righty going, Nick Gordon's in there. Nick Gordon struggled. He's hit a couple of home runs, some big home runs early in the season, but seems like he's on a cold streak. Dane Myers came in, though, yesterday, in a situation that we wouldn't have normally expected to him be in this year, and thus he still delivered. And I think that's the really encouraging thing as well. But what did you make about the Marlins slightly going away from that ultra-strict platoon in the outfield and just getting Daney at-bats instead?
Skip did sort of suggest that he was going to start messing with the status quo, and it's been needed. And I think it's what we've all wanted to see. I mean, sometimes, I don't know about you, the second I see the lineup pop up on the MLB app, and what goes through my head is, again. So to get that change a little later on is what we all wanted to see, and it's paid off. And sometimes you've got to make those calls to get the results that the fans want and that the rest of the team want. And I'm really, really happy it happened, because he got us all smiling. I've said the word smiling about 500 times, but it's true. Because look, you're smiling.
This is it. Skip knows what the fans want, and what the fans are asking for is Dane Myers. I mean, baseball is a funny game, and you go through hot streaks, cold streaks. There's everything that happens in a year. I always look at it and think, a bit like Dane in spring. The dude's super hot. Let's just ride that hot hand until he goes cold and then option him down. It never makes a ton of sense to me to option dudes. A bit like Max Meyer in some ways. He'd had his career outing. Let's just ride it until he cools off and then send him down to AAA to work on things. So, I liked it that he just picks out. He's like, okay, Dane's so hot that he has to play now instead of Nick Gordon. I mean, Nick Gordon's in the opposite situation. But yeah, to your point, I think it's a great point, well made, Dave, that, Skip just changing it up a bit and not just going with computer says this, and he's actually making he's managing now. And we've seen that a bit with the bullpen too. But Skip, it feels like it's back to him managing and rather than just predetermined things and a big enough sample size, it will work, seems to be. But yeah, encouraging. What about on the flip side, though, Dave? Who's underperformed the most since your expectations?
Well, it's so difficult to answer because I could pick about 20 names. I mean, like you say, Gordon, he slipped down after, what was not the worst start in the world. Tim Anderson, he's not giving us anything at all so far for me. Harsh, or I mean,
I think that's fair with Tim Anderson, where you hype it up with Tim Anderson. I think the offense just really isn't there. Like that it's effectively Joey Wendell back out there. Do you know what I mean? Like it's still discouraging in terms of the offensive production for a team that needed to build more offense into the offense effectively. I think, unfortunately, this one hasn't delivered what they'd hoped for. So I'm with you on that.
You feel there was hype from the front office around him? Did we as fans expect him to come in and I don't know. I genuinely don't know what I expected. He hasn't given me what I heard he was going to give us.
I think so. I mean, firstly, what I'd say on that topic is he was the only free agent move, and so by the time we got to it, we'd have taken anything as a fan base, I guess. And I think he felt like a perfect Marlins option as a buy low, but you have to question whether the Marlins are ever going to be the organization to turn an underperforming stick into an overperforming stick. Doesn't seem to fit the Marlins organizational profile. And so I think it was a long shot with Tim Anderson, frankly, considering the drop-off we've seen. It's maybe slightly better than last year, but still it's underwhelming, right? I'm underwhelmed too. I'm glad you called out Tim Anderson because I think that's a fair call out that he hasn't been the impact player that maybe the Marlins had hoped, even though, like to your point, the front office was definitely giving plenty of Tim Anderson love because, well, they had no one else to give any love to, but I think that's a fair shout. Considering where they're at right now and the amount of games under 500, like what does success look like to you now for 2024, the rest of the way? It's a long old season. Anything can happen, but realistically, what's it looking like?
Look, success for me is actually not going to be based around results. It's developing these guys that we've got a chance to develop. And I'm not just talking about the guys that are currently in the team. I'm on about those that we've got down in AAA. I just want to see the team develop players. I'm gonna say that if we get 60 wins, I'm gonna be pretty happy. But I'm honestly, Peter, for me, I'm not looking at the win-loss ratio now. What I'm looking at is what we can do to prepare ourselves that this doesn't happen again next year. And for me, success is what are we going to be seeing at the end of 2024 and the start of 2025? Because I think if we get hooked up on the results too much, it's going to be an even longer season than it usually is.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Great shout. We're running long on time, so we're going to park Max Meyer. I'll cover him over the weekend independently. Dave, what I wanted to do is and listen, most of the listeners to this show, because I have the analytics to tell me, are predominantly based in the States. So that's fine. But I wanted to give you an opportunity, and us collectively, we're both in the UK talking about the Marlins. So I think it's right that we shine a light on some of the great work that you've been doing really recently. So I think it's maybe share the backstory of what motivated you to get to the position of where you've gotten to, and equally then just shine a light on the new Marlins UK supporters club and where they can, where everyone that wants to can find that. So, maybe let us know how you came to be motivated to get this rolling.
So I've always had a sort of passing like for baseball, and it was a like. It wasn't top of my list. I always liked the Marlins. I always watched the Marlins. I knew who the Marlins guys were. And then it was the opening weekend of this season. I headed over to Miami on a family holiday and ended up at Lone Depot Park, and it just completely transformed my love of the organization. And I know that people are going to laugh when they hear that, but it did. I had a great time. My children had a great time. My wife had a great time. And when I got back, I came across a few of the Marlins fans. Obviously, I'd already been listening to some of your work, and I thought, you know what? I look on social media and I don't see any Marlins supporters groups, but I do see them for other teams. Let's get one going. And I launched pretty quickly a very thrown together website, but it doesn't look too bad if I say so myself. And we've already, within just a few days of actually officially launching, we've already had double figures in terms of registrations. We've had another 2 register while we've been on tonight because I've had the notifications on my computer. So I'm sorry if you've seen me just quickly flicking back. It's the excitement of there's a few more coming out.
Let's go.
So we'd love to get more people involved. So if there are people in the UK listening, we'd love you to get involved. And if there are people listening that aren't massive baseball fans, usually with a passing interest, trust me, it's a great sport to get involved in. And I can't think of a more English team than the Marlins. Even a Locked On host is from the UK. Come on.
This is it. It has to be. It's meant to be, right? And where you need to go to, it's miamimarlins.co.uk, of course, to get yourself involved on that one. Listen, as soon as you arrange the Miami Marlins UK supporters group wine tasting event, I'm all in, Dave. So, put that one on the list of potentials.
We'll put location leads so it's easy for you as well.
It keeps my taxi fare way down on that one. So sounds like a great shout to me. Awesome. Well, Dave, listen, I firstly want to tip my cap to you for taking the inspiration a level further and getting this up and running. I'm looking forward to see where it can lead to. And for me, getting together, as Marlins fans, all the listeners will take that for granted because everyone that lives around them will know baseball, follow the Marlins probably, and it's easy to make happen. To your point, we've probably got 50 Marlins fans max in the UK, and it's about trying to find where they are, bring them together, and drink some wine and enjoy some baseball together. So well done to you, mate. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes.
Thanks.
We're bang out of time. So for those that aren't following Dave on Twitter right now, make sure you get him at Dave Hunt UK, and also there's a Miami Marlins UK account as well, which is the official supporters club one. So not, we've dropped the underscore for that one. It's just straight up Miami Marlins UK. Love to see it. Guys, thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen. I'm excited to see how this A's series goes. I think it's going to be a stronger test for the Marlins than maybe meets the eye. The A's have been pitching well. The Marlins equally, I think, have turned the corner. Let's see if the Marlins can play the fundamentals right. And if they can play some non-sloppy baseball, then I feel like this momentum could carry forward. Look forward to seeing you guys maybe over the weekend if there's breaking news. If not, see you next week. See you soon.